things in life that's certain. Death, taxes, and 85 will always kill.
Welcome to New Stripe City, a podcast for die-hard Bengals fans. I'm your host, Ace Boogie. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about a lot of things. We'll talk about the Super Bowl. We'll talk about the snub of T.O., aka Terrell Owens. And we'll also get into if Andy Dalton has what it takes to make it to the Super Bowl. Probably touch on a couple other things, but I just want to state the obvious of what we'll be getting into. Before I get into everything, make sure that you follow us on Twitter at AMBA513. That's my personal Twitter. But I release a lot of New Stripe City stuff through there. Also, make sure that you like us and follow us on Facebook. You can find us on there at New Stripe City. And then also make sure that you take some time and subscribe to our podcast in the iTunes store. We're also on podcastgarden.com as well. So make sure you check us out in both places. We're also on, we also have our website, newstripecity.blogspot.com. Make sure you check there. I've been uploading articles recently. And like I said on my last episode, I am looking for writers. I have received some inquiries. All you guys basically will have to do is submit a story to me. I'll check over it and see if I like it. And if we like how things go, I'll definitely give you the details on the next steps. So, let's talk about this Super Bowl, man. Crazy Super Bowl. I know our Bengals weren't in it. Wish we were there. But it was kind of crazy to see how Atlanta, in a sense, had a performance similar to our squad. Honestly, those we've had games like that in the past. You think back to the Chargers game when I think we were up 28-7 or 28-0 at half, and we let the Chargers come back. It just seems like. It seemed a little bit like a Bengals self-implode, so that kind of scared me because if we ever do get to the Super Bowl, I do not want that to happen. Let's just set the record straight. But what can you say, man? Tom Brady's a great quarterback. He's going down in history now, more than likely as the greatest. 5 rings, a deficit of 20 points that the Patriots were able to erase. It's just crazy, man. Atlanta, I don't know, man. I don't know what happened with the play calling in the fourth quarter. Everybody's talked about it. Everybody's harped on it. We've had similar situations with Marvin where you go back and look at plays and you kind of don't understand them. And I even kind of related to our situation, even though they were totally different, in the Steelers game. And I felt like, and I don't know why I thought I was in the minority, but it come to find out, a buddy of mine that has his own show, The Wise Guys, agreed and said the same thing. When the Bengals made that play with the interception, where Burfict intercepts the backup quarterback for Pittsburgh, I honestly felt, given the conditions of that game, you should have downed the ball. Jeremy Hill had a fumbling problem that whole year. We knew about that. Not only just that, you looked outside at the weather conditions. It's a wet game, so common sense would tell you, ball security is key. Go ahead and nail the ball 3 times, punt, and force the Steelers to drive the entire field. Make them use those timeouts. We didn't do that. Atlanta obviously was in another situation where they were on their opponent's 22. All they had to do was run the ball a couple times, take their field goal. Okay, totally different situation, but in the sense of using your common sense as a coach, they didn't do it. And they actually, felt the consequence like we did in the Steelers game. So I look at that game and I was kind of excited because Atlanta kind of was a team very similar to the Bengals. When you look at their history, they have like all of these huge expectations, but they never live up to them. There is a somewhat of a key difference between the two in terms of playoff wins, but when you talk about a team that was on the rise and successful. They kind of parallel align with each other, and so there are a lot of similarities, in my opinion, between the two. It starts with Matt Ryan and Andy Dalton. Matt Ryan was a guy that had to step in for a veteran quarterback like Michael Vick, with different circumstances, obviously, but he still was a guy that had to step into the limelight early, similar to Dalton. Okay, he was given weapons. In my opinion, he had more weapons than Dalton initially, but I mean that's debatable. They all have had their share of weapons. They both have. So, two very similar guys that you can put in and plug pieces around to help compensate for them not being on the level of a Brady or a Manning. There's nothing wrong with that. So you see that. You see the similarities with the receivers. They used to have Roddy White there. Now they have Julio Jones. We have AJ. I mean, there are a lot of parallels between the two. They have the two running backs. I think Mohamed Sanu even spoke on this, saying that, the Falcons and the Bengals are very similar. So it was real exciting seeing them there, and I felt like that, in a sense, gave us some hope of being able to get there. Now, hopefully, when we get there, it's not the same issues, or we don't self-implode like they did, but it was kind of cool to see that. But anyways, let's talk about the stuff while we're really here. So, if you guys notice, they had the Hall of Fame class induction this past weekend, and it was just kind of crazy to me that Terrell Owens didn't make the Hall of Fame. And I couldn't believe that people really didn't make more of a big deal of what happened. I mean, some people did, but to me it was just crazy because you got the guy who's second all time in receiving yards not making the Hall of Fame. Does that make sense to you? I mean, last time I checked, the Hall of Fame was made specifically to honor guys who were some of the NFL's elite. I mean, I thought that's why it was made. So all of a sudden, you're having a committee made up of sports writers, which makes no sense to me because, first off, most sports writers have never played in the National Football League themselves, not even college. Some haven't even picked up a football, period. And you're giving these guys the power to vote in actual NFL players? That does not make sense. And so obviously, T.O. was blocked just due to the fact that the media didn't like him, or, at a certain point in his career, he wasn't as nice or courteous towards the media. To me, I could care less about a guy being nice to the media. Who cares about that, right? In the grand scheme of things, this is for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. This is not the NAACP Image Awards or anything where we're worried about somebody's personality. It's about what you did on that field. And when you take that man's resume and match it up to anybody that's a receiver in the NFL, this guy is either going to be better than them or neck and neck with them. So that just made absolutely no sense. And when you look at T.O.'s career, I'm a little biased because I'm a T.O. fan. I followed him his entire career. I loved when he jumped on the Bengals. And to me, he was a guy who played at an elite level for a long time. You have to remember that T.O. had a pretty good year when he was on our Bengals. 900 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns, 72 receptions. I mean, the guy still had it, and he was playing at a immaculate level to be his age. I mean, the guy still wanted to play when he was 37, and he could still run out there. So it's just kind of ridiculous to me that sports writers get a lot of input on this process, which makes no sense. Okay, so to me, I just feel like T.O. has been held out. You look at Ken Anderson. These are guys that, for some reason, keep getting looked over. And T.O. is just a blatant slap in the face. It's like, bro, for real, y'all aren't gonna throw T.O. in there. And I was talking with some people on my Facebook, man, and they were like, well, you knew that was gonna happen because the media didn't like him, and he was considered a team cancer. Okay, how does that equate to the statistical output that this guy has had? 15,000 receiving yards? Are we really talking about that the media didn't like him and that he was a quote-unquote cancer? And that's my thing. A lot of people said that he was selfish and all of that. I didn't hear anybody really saying that he was selfish when this guy signed a waiver to play in the Super Bowl, put his career on the line for Philadelphia just to play in the Super Bowl. Come on, man. I mean, most guys these days, even if you look at Jermaine Gresham, I think it was a playoff game against the Colts. The guy wouldn't play at all because he was more so worried about his impending free agency and getting another deal versus, suiting it up for the Bengals. And we're living in an era where guys don't do that anymore. T.O. was willing to do that, bro. He was willing to put his career, not just, for a game or a check, his entire career. Like, he could have really went out there and damaged his knee to the point where he couldn't play anymore. And I find it, I'm just flabbergasted that people try to say that this guy didn't put his own career on the line for the team goal. And when you look at T.O., man, yeah, you can say how he has thrown people under the bus. But to me, man, I don't think that he should have went public with some of this stuff. But when you really look at the Eagles situation, and mind you, I was a big Donovan McNabb fan. I felt like he was a guy for the Eagles that really opened the door for the pocket passing African American quarterback. So he did a lot for African American quarterbacks because at the time it seemed like most of them were only scrambling quarterbacks, and he showed that he could throw from the pocket. So he did a lot. But when you look at that game, man, was T.O. really wrong in the Super Bowl? 5 turnovers and you lose by 3 points. That Eagles team was stacked. Donovan McNabb had 5 turnovers. Was T.O. wrong for going to the media? Yes. Was he wrong in general about Donovan McNabb in that game? No, I don't think so. Okay, but to each his own. We're not here to talk about, T.O.'s friendships or what he did. We're here to talk about what he did on the field, and that's what the Hall of Fame is. So all of this extra stuff, I really don't have time for. And so people are like, he's a cancer and all of that. Okay, well, you could in a sense call Randy Moss a cancer. Randy Moss, didn't leave daisies everywhere he played, but he's one of the best receivers ever. Are we really going to hold Randy Moss out of the Hall of Fame because he's a quote-unquote cancer? You guys remember when they called Chad Ochocinco a cancer? I mean, Chad definitely wasn't a cancer. So can we really lay claim to these other guys being quote-unquote cancers if they lied on Chad Johnson like that, saying that he's a cancer? You guys remember him saying if he's a cancer, we need chemo. But come on, man. What does that have to do in the grand scheme of things? To me, this obviously shows that you need to have actual NFL players, whether it's Hall of Fame players, current, former NFL Players Association. You have to have somebody who's actually played it down in the NFL vote on this stuff that doesn't have a personal bias, because now we're talking more about the freaking media than these players. And come on, man. Terrell Davis is getting in over Terrell Owens. Come on, bro. Morton Anderson. Are you serious? Bro, y'all have to be like... That is the most ridiculous thing ever. Like, when I really saw that, I was like, really? And then a lot of people like to talk about character and he's this and he's that. Well, you guys literally just last year voted in a guy who allegedly was involved in a murder. But apparently, T.O. doing sit-ups in his driveway, not answering your annoying questions is an issue. I really just don't understand it, man. I don't want to get off on a tangent or anything, but let good football players that played, whether they were good or not, whether you liked them or not, they deserve to be there, okay? I'll give you a concrete example. And this probably isn't the best example, but let's talk about Tim Duncan, right? Shifting gears, we'll just get off topic a little bit. I do not like Tim Duncan, bruh. I don't know what it is about him. I don't know if it's that he's the big fundamentalist. He's just kind of bland to me. But I have the utmost respect for him. It doesn't matter if I like him or not. To me, Tim Duncan is still arguably the best power forward of all time. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, you're not a Hall of Famer because I don't like you. Same thing with Kobe. A lot of people don't like Kobe's personality. Does that take away from him scoring 81 points? No. Does that take away from T.O., having a career number of 15,000 receiving yards? No. The guy has 642 more receiving yards in his career than Randy Moss, man. Randy Moss, he's second to only Jerry Rice. It's really ridiculous to me what they did to embarrass this man. All for some personal media vendetta. If anything, man, you guys should thank T.O. because he gave you guys so many narratives, and he honestly hurt himself more, speaking out on certain issues and helping the media versus, not speaking to you guys. And I find that crazy too, man. It's like whenever players don't talk to the media, then it's an issue, like Marshawn Lynch. But they ask you all of these questions that they know that you're not supposed to be asked. They know they ask stuff that's going to cause drama. They know they ask stuff that they shouldn't be asked. But if a player doesn't respond to it, no comment, NC, then it's an issue. Come on, man. Come on, man. But anyways, let's get into some of the meat and potatoes of what I really want to talk about, man. And it's Andy Dalton and our chances of making a Super Bowl with him, right? So I'm out here hearing all of this noise, man. And it's really not much noise, but it's one person in particular that keeps saying that we cannot win a championship with Andy Dalton. We need to upgrade our quarterback position with Andy Dalton. And I'm just looking like, bruh, are you serious? Like, this can't be real. But me, I don't really just go off of opinions, man. I like to kind of do my research and look things up and look into things and kind of analyze things. So, make sure you're on the lookout for this next article I have coming up. I actually just posted my thoughts with my article on Terrell Owens and his snub. But next I'll have another interesting one on Andy Dalton and if he has what it takes to make the Bengals a Super Bowl team. And in my findings, I found that he can, man. So I'm going to have more details in the article, but I'll touch on some of the things that I found, right? So I decided to use 3 players. I wanted to do a comparison initially of Andy Dalton and Matt Ryan, right? But Hobbs beat me to the punch. I had to give, it's the mothership, man. It's salute to the mothership all day, every day. Jeff Hobson is an amazing guy. I love his material. So I couldn't even be mad that he beat me to the punch on that. But now I'm looking at several factors. So I decided to use 3 people. I used Andy Dalton. I also used Matt Ryan. And the third person that I used was Russell Wilson. You didn't think about that, did you? Okay, so in my findings, which you'll see later, you'll see that these guys were very similar. Very similar. And these were 2 guys in Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson that made it to the Super Bowl. But the most interesting part was Dalton's 2015 season. And it's really going to expose a lot of guys that try to say that Andy Dalton is average and he's not that good and all of this blase blah. The Bengals need a new quarterback. Like, come on, man. So when you look at Andy Dalton's 2015 season, one of his best seasons. We all noticed when we saw Andy Dalton in 2015, the light came on. He was like playing some of his best football that we've ever seen. And so I actually accessed something known as the quarterback similarity score. It's actually provided by RotoViz. And basically what this does is it takes the quarterback stats of a current season, in this situation 2015, and it kind of breaks down stats and starts to compare some of the averages on the season to history. And so it's funny that I'm pulling this up now. So we're looking at the 2015 season with Andy Dalton. He was 28 years old. He played 13 games. He averaged 29 attempts per game. His completion percentage was 66%. His yards per attempt were 8.42. His average yards per game were 250 in terms of passing yards. And his touchdowns were 1.92. Interceptions were just under 0.54. Okay? So when you compare those seasons, right? Listen to these names that I'm about to put out here. Comparable seasons. Donovan McNabb, 2004. Ben Roethlisberger, 2012. Phillip Rivers, 2009. Donovan McNabb again, 2009. Ben Roethlisberger again, 2010. Same year he went to the Super Bowl. 2007. Let's talk about Drew Brees, 2004. Aaron Rodgers, 2008. Peyton Manning, 2006. Tony Romo, 2009. Donovan McNabb, 2006. Phillip Rivers, 2013. Trent Green, for some of my old school cats, 2002. Eli Manning, 2009. Peyton Manning, 2007. Matt Ryan, 2011. Peyton Manning, 2003. Matt Ryan, 2010. Joe Flacco, 2010. So listen to some of those names that I'll just, spit off of rotoviz.com, man. And this is legit. This is numbers. These are the same averages. So when you look at the comparable seasons, they're going off of age. So Donovan McNabb, his age on here was 28. Now, all of them aren't the same age, but Donovan McNabb was 28. Phillip Rivers in 2009 was 28. Ben Roethlisberger in 2010 was 28. So these are guys who were some pretty good quarterbacks, man. And you got people out here talking about we need to upgrade over that. What can you upgrade over that? I'd really like to know what you could do to upgrade over that. Ben Roethlisberger's on this list 3 times. These are all good quarterbacks. These are quarterbacks that made it to the playoffs. I mean, not to the playoffs, but to the Super Bowl. So when you're looking at Andy Dalton, who's, entering into his 30s now, when you gave the guy a good line, when you gave him those weapons, you saw what he could do. So can Andy Dalton lead us to a Super Bowl? Obviously, yeah. If Russell Wilson can, then yeah. If Matt Ryan can, yeah. He's only going to get better. And I hate that people try to say that we've seen Andy's best. No, we haven't. 2015 was his best year, okay? And he obviously was hurt that year. We're not just going to hang everything on that year, but, Andy definitely took a step, bruh. Andy definitely took a step, man. And it's crazy to me because you want to compare this guy to the Tom Brady's and the Aaron Rodgers of the world. No, he's not them, but he's definitely not Alex Smith either. Let's just put that out there. He's not Alex Smith. He's better than Alex Smith. Boomer Esiason said it best. There's about 10 guys. I mean, Andy's got to be in your top 11. There's no way around it. Okay, and when you're a top 11 quarterback out of 32, how does that mean that you're average? Okay, I don't understand that. I don't understand how he's average. I don't understand how 5 out of I'm tired of saying the same things over and over again. All right, I don't understand how making the playoffs as much as this guy did is average. I don't understand how coming in your rookie season during a lockout year, so you weren't even allowed to communicate with the coaches. You had all of that stuff going on, and this guy still came out and played his butt off. I mean, come on, man. You really think Andy Dalton is the problem with the Bengals? Nah, man. You can't be serious. You really can't be serious, man. Especially when you look at last year, you look at how this line played. I mean, there was nothing that you could really put on Andy. The guy still threw for 4,000 yards, bruh, without Mohamed Sanu, without Marvin Jones, okay? It didn't matter who wasn't out there. Tyler Eifert wasn't out there half of the time, majority of the time. Let's just be real. And, I mean, A.J. Green went down, and this guy still delivered. So, to me, I think he can lead us to a Super Bowl. And I also had a question in the inbox on what will it take for the Bengals to make it to the Super Bowl. And I think that it starts with consistency, man. When you look at the New England Patriots, they're consistent, right? They consistently try not to make mistakes. They consistently make adjustments in the second half. We saw that last night. That's what the Bengals have to do. You know, it's hard to stop Tom Brady, man. You have to have that pass rush. You have to have weapons to score with the Patriots. You have to have the coaching. And that's why it's so hard to get past those guys, because they nail it in every aspect. But if the Bengals can put this together, which AJ Green is turning 30, man. Geno Atkins is entering into his 30s as well. You know, I'm not trying to say that the window is starting to close, but it's time to tighten up, man. You have the team. You have the pieces. You're in a prime position to have a top 10 draft pick this year. You have 11 picks. You have 40 to 50 million in cap space, possibly more, depending on where the cap gets set at. It's time to make a run, man. It's really time to make a run. And I think that the Bengals can do that. When you look at the Falcons, what did they concentrate on? They brought in a lot of guys on that offensive line, whether it was through the draft with Jake Matthews, whether it was through free agency with Alex Mack. They made sure that they shored up that protection. And what else did they do? They went out and got a Mohamed Sanu when Roddy White, you know, who they were loyal to, clearly couldn't play at the same level that he used to. And they were willing to move on. What else did they do? They played their younger players. I respect Marvin Lewis. I respect what he does. I respect the process. But at the end of the day, man, this is not college. You cannot redshirt players anymore. I know you're worried that they're going to make mistakes, and I understand that. But how else are they going to learn, man? When you want somebody that's so bad and you have faith in them, it's sink or swim. And that's the motto that the Bengals should use next year. Sink or swim. Either you're going to swim, you're going to go out there, you're going to start struggling, and eventually you're going to swim and hit some strides and become a great player, or you're going to sink right to the bench where we can grab a veteran who's been there before and easily throw him in. And that's all I'm saying, man. We have to be active. And I'm not saying that you have to go out in free agency, spend 90 to $100 million on somebody. I'm not saying that. But if there's a guy like a Deshaun Jackson out there, man, and you're talking about he's willing to take a decent number to come here. And I'm not saying Deshaun will. But if you have a guy like that out there, man, it doesn't even have to be a receiver. Just somebody that's going to make an impact on this team, man. Whether it's linebacker, corner, safety, whatever, man. You have to take that chance on bringing them in. We've had guys that were interested in playing in the Bengals before. But we tried to, focus on our own guys. And there's nothing wrong with that. I agree with the philosophy. Retain, re-sign your own. But retain and re-sign the right guys. Let's not waste money. Let's play these players. We saw with the Falcons what happens when you play young players. So you talking about an Andrew Billings? Throw him in there, bro. There isn't a need for a learning curve. The best learning curve they can get is in the game. You talking about a William Jackson III? Throw him in there, bro. We don't need William Jackson to be a gunner. That's cool. We got somebody else for that. Let Chris Lewis Harris handle that. Let, somebody else, Kavari, Russell, whatever you want to do. Even if Kavari can play, throw him in there. Let's get the best players out there, man. Because we can't be sitting around for 3 to 4 years and ending up with another situation like a Darqueze Dennard or, some of these other guys, Marquise Flowers. You can't even see what these guys are like. So that's all, man. That's really all. But at the end of the day, I do believe number 14 definitely can lead us to the Super Bowl, man. Definitely. Carson Palmer couldn't even do half of the stuff that this dude is doing, man. Let's just be real. When did Carson Palmer lead us to the playoffs 5 years straight, man? When that happens, let me know. Let me know. But like I said, man, on our next episode, we'll definitely have some more input on the draft. It's officially draft season now, so we'll start to get more so into that. I'm still working on Prime. I'm really waiting for this combine to happen, man. That's when all of the real weights and sizes come out. So I'm waiting on that. But I've been digging around this draft class, and before I get out, man, I'm hearing a lot of people say that the Bengals absolutely have to address pass rush in the first round. Let me just touch on that real quick, man. Now, if this was last year, and I'm not saying, based on our needs for last year, I'm just saying if this was last year's class, I would have a sense of urgency in terms of taking an edge rusher early. But when you look at this class, and you guys will finally realize this when you actually, it's early. It's still early. But when you guys actually take a look at this draft, you'll realize defensive end is deep, bruh. Like, it's very deep. Like, there's going to be a lot of guys going in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round that are still going to be pretty decent. If I had to give you guys a better comparison, think about last year's draft at defensive tackle. Then just picture that being defensive ends. Okay? That's what it's like this year. So, that's why I'm so big on the Bengals taking Reuben Foster. Because middle linebacker and linebacker in general really isn't that deep this year. And you're talking about having an impact player. Let's just be real. Okay, I'm going to put my Marvin Lewis hat on. Even if we take a defensive end, they're not going to be starting. Michael Johnson's going to be starting, and the rookie might get rotated in. Might. Right? But I know if you bring in another linebacker, he has a potential chance to start from day one. And why wouldn't you want a guy like Reuben Foster in there? I mean, when you really look at the grand scheme of things, I'm hearing guys talk about running back, wide receiver, quarterback, defensive end in some aspects. Those units are not as weak as our linebacking unit is. Okay? Like when you have guys like Vinny Ray that have to start, and Nick Vigil and Marquise Flowers, as of right now, without Dansby being signed, those guys are starting. You need to draft a couple linebackers, bruh. I'm just being real. And I hear a lot of people talking about, I don't think that it's going to be a linebacker. The last time the Bengals had the 9th pick in the draft, what did they pick? Linebacker. When have they ever picked a defensive end in the first round in the Marvin Lewis era? I'll wait, bro. Just let me know. The closest they've ever gotten to it is a pass rushing linebacker, which was David Pollock, and we all know how that ended up, right? Okay. So, I'll touch on our draft a lot later. We can talk on skill positions, tight end class. This tight end class is deep, but I have everything that you need between now and the draft. Of course, my son is going to be here March 12th. Is the scheduled expected date. We'll see how that goes, but I definitely have enough material for you guys, and if I do take a break, then you guys will know where I'm at. But I definitely have, loaded up on some material just for when that time comes. But as usual, I'll leave you guys out with a who day, all day, every day, and especially on Sunday. Make sure that you comment, subscribe, like us on YouTube, subscribe to our podcast, and you guys take it easy, man. Who they? We coming for that trophy. Best believe.
Always business. Never personal. Here's the 3rd and 7. And the carry goes down the field, and it's caught and breathes in for the touchdown.
Things in life that suck. Death, taxes, and 85 will always go.